بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. How's everyone doing? You guys are good? This is not a Jummah khutbah, so you can relax, smile. Everyone smile for a second. You can relax. For some reason we think that when there's a discussion of deen and we get all tensed out. Just relax, smile, and if we sit like that, then we'll benefit more. So I was asked to speak about the lessons that we can derive from Surah Hadeed. Well, of course we're not going to do the tafsir of the entire surah. Yesterday we did Surah Kahf at Bear Creek Islamic Center, and we did the first few verses. Surah Hadeed is not as long, it only has 29 verses, but still I am not going to try to go from the beginning to the end. This is not the correct setting for it. You need a workshop, everyone has to have books and pens and writing. So I'm just going to share a few lessons that we can benefit from on a daily basis from Surah Hadeed. It is one of my favorite surahs. There are surahs known as Musabbihat. And there are 5 surahs that are known as Musabbihat. Can you guys count them with me? Which ones are they? Musabbihat are surahs that start with Sabbaha or Yusabbihu. And Surah Al-Hadeed is the first one in order towards the end of the Quran. It's the first one. So now you know that. Let me ask you a question before I ask you which surahs they are. Don't feel offended if you don't know it, alright guys? Guys, can you smile again? Alright, don't get all tensed out. Which story? Why are you guys sitting in the corner like that for? Yeah, I can't see you guys. Huh? I'm gonna pull my table out more then. Why don't you move there and this guy moves a bit that way? Yeah, bismillah. I want to see everyone, all the men actually. Alright. Which prophet's story is the first story mentioned in the Quran? What's the first story revealed to the Prophet ﷺ of all the prophets? So many prophets. What was the first story? Okay, what'd you say? Musa alayhi salam? Okay, I'm not going to say yes or no. Musa alayhi salam. Anybody else? Can you hear me better now? Okay. Anybody else? So I love when these settings because the sisters can't chime in at all. This is the time where they just got to sit there quietly. And you know what they're going to tell you afterwards? I knew it. When you get in the car, like, I knew it. But then the Sheikh never asked me. I said, yeah, whatever. All right. So, story of Musa. What else? Who else? Any other? Yes. What's your name? Hadi. Okay, what did you say? The story of Ibrahim alayhi salam. Okay, anybody else wants to chime in? Yes, Habibi. Adam alayhi salam. Uncle said Adam alayhi salam. Anybody else? Like you can go over all the prophets. I'll take one more. Yes, buddy. Nuh alayhi salam. Okay. I don't want to make it sound rude, but you guys are all wrong. All right. Which is good though. It's not a big deal. The first story revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in terms of revelation was the story of Yunus alayhi salam. Yunus. All right. Of course, in terms of the Quran, when you recite it, the first story is Adam alayhi salam. And there's a great hikmah in that as well. There's a great wisdom in the story of Yunus being revealed first, because the Prophet was metaphorically in the womb of the belly, right? The stomach of the belly in Mecca. Just like how Yunus alayhi salam was physically. And Allah is encouraging the Prophet ﷺ not to lose hope. And for this ummah, we're always going to be in these moments where it's tough. As long as we stick to La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minadh dhalimin. Yes. Bro, then do it. Why are you whispering? You want me to put it in my mouth?
Yeah. I think you're hungry.
No, I'm good. You good? Okay. So the reason why there's 2 issues that always happen in masjids: parking lot and mic. Like otherwise it's not a masjid. Like the moment there's parking issues where a license plate number does that, and there's mic issues. And the mic issues are interesting. Like the mic will be working perfectly fine for every single day until the event. Right when the event starts, boom, the mic stops messing around. We used, in Ramadan, the mic would be perfect. My brothers reciting Quran, Tarawih is going perfect. Wallahi, 4 years in a row, Khatm al-Quran night, bang, it stops working. 4 years in a row. The 5th year, we literally had an emergency mic system. Like if it fails, and it didn't fail that year. Every single year, 4 years in a row, the mic system stopped working. And for the whole Ramadan, it was working perfectly fine. Well, I haven't figured out why that happens, but it does happen. So why the story was mentioned first is because La ilaha illa anta subhanaka inni kuntu minal zalimin. This dua that Allah wanted to teach us ummah, that this should be the first thing you learn and stick to, because it will help you everywhere you are. So now these 5 musabbihat. We have Surah Hadeed that comes first. What else? Surah Hashr, and then Surah Saf, right? Then Surah Jum'ah, and then Surah Taghabun. And there's 2 more that start with the same sigha, Sin, Ba, Ha. What are they? Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la and Surah Isra, Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdihi. They're not known as musabbihat, but they do have the same sigha, the same 3 letters. What do these 3 letters mean? Because this is what this surah falls under the category of musabbihat. And the Sahaba used to say that if you want to enjoy the gardens of the Quran, then recite the musabbihat. There's a lot of beauty in these verses. In one hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, each verse is more powerful than 1,000 verses. Okay, so what does sabaha mean? Sin, ba, ha. We know that one of the meanings of sabaha is tasbih, right? Tasbih. But that's not the linguistic meaning of sabaha. Sabaha means inna laka fin nahari sabhan tawila. Sabaha means to float, not even to swim, to stay afloat. That's what sabaha means. And there's an amazing connection here. The connection over here is, and it's interesting that one of the first surahs that was revealed to the Prophet ﷺ in Makkah was Surah Al-A'la. Sabbih isma rabbika al-a'la. You know what sabbaha actually, so it means to stay afloat. When you do tasbih, when you say subhanallah, you know what you're doing? You're basically, before you can praise Allah, you have to do tasbih. Right? That's why Surah Isra comes first. Subhanalladhi asra bi'abdi laylan. And then Surah Kahf comes after, which is Alhamdulillah alladhi anzala ala abdil kitab. So before you praise Allah, you have to do tasbih of Allah. You know what tasbih of Allah actually means? It means to declare the perfection of Allah. Literally means that. It means to declare the perfection of Allah, that Allah is perfect and His plans are perfect. Because sometimes in our life, there'll be plans that are happening in our life that don't look like they're perfect, but they are perfect. And so the continuous recitation of tasbih makes you love Allah more, because things that are happening around us can make it seem like Allah's plan is not perfect. And there's a problem with Allah's plan. Every time the Prophet went through problems in his life, Allah always told him, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. He says, O Prophet of Allah, we know that it hurts your feelings when you hear them say things about you. فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُمْ مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ. Say tasbih. Say subhanallah. Because in your limited scope, it could seem to you that Allah's plan is not perfect. But Allah's plan is always perfect. We just don't understand the wisdom of Allah's plans all the time. In another verse, فَاصْبِرْ عَلَى مَا يَقُولُونَ وَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ. Be patient upon what they're saying and do tasbih of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this surah starts with سَبَّحَ لِلَّهِ مَا فِي السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْحَكِيمُ. It starts with the tasbih of Allah. So all of us, this is not just something we recite, but we have to remind ourselves over and over again. Wallahi, you see people going through a lot of challenges in their life, and it's very powerful to see people who are going through challenges declare the perfection of Allah. You go to prison, you see people there. You go to people who lost loved ones. And man, they're making this very romantic now. The ambiance is like perfect, huh? All right, that's all I can think of. Khair, looks beautiful. They wanted to tell us that alhamdulillah your money was spent well, we bought a chandelier. And the chandelier we bought it for you guys, so just make sure you guys look at it and say subhanallah. All right? So subhanallah, that surah starts with subhan. What does it mean to stay afloat? You know what it means to stay afloat? In life, when we're going through difficulties, we just can't drown. We can't drown in doubts. It's okay that sometimes we go through challenges, that's fine. But we can't drown in our doubts. Maybe marriage problems, children problems, financial problems, loss of loved ones, that's fine. You know, someone came to Abu Dhar al-Ghifari, anhu, and he used to, every single child of his that was born, he buried his children. Every child. That's tough, that's extremely tough. You know, like you bury one child and it's tough. But all of them? So, someone said to him that, hey man, how do you cope with this? And he said something so profound. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi ya'khuduhum fi dar al-fana wa yaddakhiruhum fi dar al-baqa. All praises to Allah, who takes them from me in this temporary world and preserves them for me in the everlasting world. This basically, someone could make you doubt Allah. But look at the way he looks at it now. Completely changed the way he looked at it. Completely changed. Fudail ibn Iyad, rahmatullahi alayhi, saw that this man was struggling after he lost his loved one, his son. And Sufyan bin Uyayna, rahmatullahi alayhi, came to him to give him ta'ziyah, but he never, literally, he wasn't having it. So he goes up to him and he says to him, listen, imagine you and your son were in a prison. And your son was released first. Wouldn't you be happy that your son was released first? He says, of course. He says, well, your son was released from the prison of dunya. And now he has entered into the vastness of akhirah. Right away he's, well, perfectly fine. This is tasbih. When the mother of Haritha comes to the Prophet ﷺ, and she is crying and she's saying, is my son in Jannah? The reason why she was asking this question is because her son was shaheed in friendly fire, not with an enemy. They were training and a stray arrow hit him and he passed away as shaheed. So he comes with this question, she comes with this question, where's my son? If he's in Jannah, then I'll be patient. But if he is not in Jannah, then I'll show the world how much I love him and how much I miss him. And the Prophet said to him, sir, awahubilti? Have you gone mad? Innaha jannatun wahida am jinanun kathira. You think he's just in one Jannah? Allah has given him so many paradises. Innahu fi jannat al-firdaus. Allah has given him the highest Jannah. The moment she heard this, she stopped crying. That's it. She wiped her tears and she said, Bakhin, bakhin ya Haritha. Oh, how lucky you are, oh Haritha. You're so lucky. So this was the reconditioning. Before I go on to the next verse, you ever heard of something called myopia? You know what myopia is? What is myopia? Dr. Barber's like, yeah, we learned that in grade 4 when we were in med school. All right. I'm not sure if he's here today. There's one brother, and after my khutbah, he's like, hey, are you a doctor? I'm like, no. He's like, but you know, you give examples of like med school, MCAT, a step 1. I'm like, yeah, my whole family's in that field. He's like, so why did you become a doctor? I'm like, because I did something better. All right. Well, let them do that. So sorry to offend you, Dr. Barber. I said my brother, this guy. So he said, so myopia is when you can't see something at a distance properly. You can only see something in front of you. That's why you wear glasses. Right? You wear glasses so it becomes clear. You only see something that's right in front of you. It's like an iPad, if you zoom in on your phone, don't do it right now. If you zoom in on your phone to your house, can you do that? on Google Maps, I'm sure there's some weirdos over here did that before. All the way to the house, right? That's right there, it's called short-sightedness. You're zoomed in at your house. There's a bigger picture than that in the world. You zoom out, then there's your neighborhood. You zoom out, then there's your city. You zoom out, then there's your country. You zoom out, then there's the world, right? So people, this is a problem that people have. They can't see at a far distance. You know, I have termed this as spiritual myopia, right? Sometimes we can't see the reward at a distance. We can't see the hikmah at a distance because we're too zoomed in our own life. Like we can't see, if someone hurts your feelings, you're like, oh, you get so offended. Zoom out a bit. Zoom out a bit. People are going through far more difficult things. And when you see the world, then you're like, oh, I'm not going through anything. Right? That's actually what helps you. That's tasbih. You start doing that, internalizing that. One is the words, then you start internalizing that. This is an interesting thing. The way the Sahaba looked at things changed. Look, you look at a grave, to your sight, it looks like just dirt. But in the spiritual eye, it's either a pit of hell or a garden of paradise. If your sight is clear. You see that. I remember once I called one of my teachers and I said to him, man, this one brother in my community is bothering me a lot. Like, you know those guys who are just, like, you just can't get rid of them. Right, you always make dua, oh Allah, make him better or remove him from my life. Like, and he's saying, I mean, and there's some people, hopefully that's not your wife, right? Hopefully it's not your wife. Otherwise, you're like, oh Allah, there's some people, they've been created just to bother you. Okay, so now this is a person in my community who's like bothering me and just like doing all kinds of random stuff. Khair, I called my teacher. I said to him, I said, Sheikh, this guy, what should I do with him? And first of all, he told me, he said, you know what do you think Hassan and Hussein radiallahu anhuma felt when Marwan was standing on the member of the Prophet ﷺ, cursing their father daily? Literally every single day. Get up on the member and say, Ali was like this, Ali was like radiallahu anhu. And Ali anhu, أَمَا تَرْضَى أَن يَكُونَ مَنْزِلُكَ أَمَامَ مَنْزِلِي فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Oh Ali, your house will be right in front of my house in Jannah. Right? When his daughter Fatima's rukhsati happened, the Prophet was happy but sad. And so he wanted her to go to her husband's house, but I'm going to tell you, like, literally, like, no exaggeration. The house where she was going was probably where that curtain is. Literally, that's where the house was. That's how far it was. I remember this story recently when I was in Warren. I went to do a nikah for, this is my close friend and a student of ours. I went to do the nikah. When I was doing the nikah, I said, sister, Qabula. And she started crying. I was like, man, poor girl, she's getting forced. So she just started bawling. And, I was like, I'll give her a few seconds. I said, sister, you gotta, like, qabiltuhu wa nakahna. She was crying. And then finally she basically said, qabula, whatever. And everyone in the family is crying. So in my head, I just thought, she's moving probably far away. And the family is crying because she's leaving. And that's actually a good tip for the guys who are getting married right now. Marry somebody who, when they leave their house, their older sister, brother, younger sister, mother, father, all are crying. Not like, oh, thank God she's gone. Okay? Because, this is an interesting thing. That is a sign of a good person. That's a sign of a good person. The Prophet said, when a person leaves this world, إِمَّا مُسْتَرِيحٌ أَم مُسْتَرَاحٌ مِّنْ, that either people are comforted from him or he is comforted from this world. And if he is comforted from this world, wajabat lahul Jannah. Jannah is wajib for him. Or people are comforted from that person. You know, there's some person in your community and then he leaves, you're like, oh, alhamdulillah. Okay. Or some person who's about to leave and you're like, oh man, you know, you do everything in the world to keep him there. Because he's someone who brings so much comfort. So khair, Allah all make us like that. Be source of comfort for those around you. Honestly. You know, our salah and our ibadah is good, but actually the Prophet ﷺ, he said, the best of you is the one who people benefit from the most. And I'm going to come to that in a second in Surah Hadeed. Nonetheless, so this girl's, and I said, sister, where's she moving? And wallahi, she was moving across the street. And I said to them, I said, man, wipe your tears. She's moving across the street. But then I felt from that moment what the Prophet ﷺ felt when his beautiful daughter was moving just across the street. Literally, and there was no street at that time. Remember, there was 8 alleys in Medina Munawwara, like the city, 8 small little alleys. So she was moving across an alley, like a sidewalk. And the Prophet was disturbed. And he could have asked, there was houses that were adjacent to his, but those houses belonged to a Sahabi by the name of Haritha, another Harith. And that's the same Sahabi the Prophet said about him, that I was in Jannah and I heard someone reciting Quran. And I recognized that person's voice. And I also recognized that that person was still alive. So how is his recitation being heard in Jannah? The angels, the trees, the leaves, the grass of Jannah is hearing this beautiful recitation. And I asked the angels, I said, he hasn't passed away. How is his recitation being heard in Jannah? And the angels replied to me that, yes, he's alive, but whenever he recites Quran, Allah makes everything in Jannah hear his voice. Why? Because of his respect for his mother. Because he was very obedient to his mother. So he told this to this Sahabi. This Sahabi had these homes next to the Prophet ﷺ. And when he realized that the Prophet ﷺ wanted one of those houses for his daughter, he said, Ya Rasulullah, you should have just asked me. And the Prophet said, no. I'll buy it from you. And then he moved Fatima next to his house. Then he was happy. So this is that Ali. And Marwan bin Hakam, this man is literally cursing Ali anhu daily, every khutbah cursing him. And Hassan anhu was the older brother, quiet, never said nothing. Never said nothing. To a point where when he passed away, Marwan bin Hakam was there for his burial in Baqiyah. And he started crying. Marwan started crying. So Hussein radiallahu anhu looked at Marwan and he says, what's up, fool? Like, what are you crying for? You used to curse him and his father all the time. You know what he said? He said, I'm crying because the world will never know what the word tolerance is. They will never understand what tolerance is, because this man had more tolerance than Mount Uhud. It doesn't matter how much burden you put on Mount Uhud, it would not crack. It doesn't matter how much you put on this man's shoulder, it would not crack. I'm just crying at that fact. Like, this man was, I salute his tolerance. So that's the first thing my teacher reminded me. Then he said something else. He asked me a question. He said, this is myopia. Like, look at the world. He said, how many people are like that in your community? I said, 1. He said, oh, mashallah, tum ho kaun? That's what he said to me. He was like, who are you? Who do you think you are? He said, the prophets, وَكَذَلِكَ جَعَلْنَا لِكُلِّ نَبِيٍّ عَدُوٍّ. He said, every prophet had enemies. And you think like you're gonna live in this world and people are not gonna hate or dislike or discredit? That doesn't work that way. Open up your scope. It's fine, it's no problem. So, Subhan, it makes us open up our eyes a bit when you do tasbih. And you have to declare the perfection of Allah. And I don't want to get emotional about this situation, but the reality is some people need it more. Like, some of you guys know my family life, and it's like, you just need to be reminded more about these situations. It's just tough. Like, for example, my brother, some of you guys know my brother, my youngest brother, I remember when he came back we were so happy that, now he's like the daughter of our family. He's gonna take care of my mom. No one's with my mom. He's gonna do this, he's gonna do that, he's gonna do this. We had all these plans for him. And subhanAllah, like Allah had different plans. And he passed away before anything. A few months into his life after Alam course, he passed away. And of course, at that moment, you could think like, if that same accident happened 1,000 times, nothing would have happened to him. Right? He could have gone a different route, he could have used a different car. But you gotta say, subhanAllah, Allah is perfect. Allah's plans are perfect. And who are we to question Allah's plans? Does that make sense? All right. That's this idea of thinking about things with a different picture. Looking at things, I'll give you one more example. I love this one. I love this one. There was a Salaf min al-Salihin, a great saint of our time. His name was Imam Makhul, rahmatullah alayh. He was sick. And somebody came to him and he said, when you come to someone who's sick, you say, may Allah give you a cure, right? That's what you say. So in Arabic it's أحسن الله عافيتك يا أبا عبد الله. May Allah make things easier for you, O Abu Abdullah. So أحسن الله عافيتك يا أبا عبد الله. May Allah make you better. And he replied, الإلحاق بمن يرجى عفوه خير من البقاء مع من لا يؤمن شره. He says, calm down. Calm down. Meeting, finally reuniting with Allah, who I am confident He will be benevolent and merciful upon me, is better for me than to stay with people who I'm never saved from their tyranny and harm. What's for you better is I come home. That's better for you. That's not better for me. Right? That's not better for me as I finally meet Allah. So relax. I read that. I want to meet Allah now. It's my time to go. When the Prophet ﷺ, he finally found, we have to keep coming to gatherings of ilm, because the ilm, it revives the heart. So I will say different things at different facts. You just got to try to remember them if you write them down. But they're very important things. So the Prophet ﷺ, he was sick for 17 salahs. He never led 17 salahs. All right, you have Friday, Saturday, Sunday, that's 15 salahs. Monday morning, that's Fajr salah. And Thursday, Isha. How many salahs is that? 17 salahs. So Thursday, Maghrib, he led. As he was walking to his room, he fell unconscious. They picked him up, they put him on his bed. He was extremely sick. He had many bowls of water poured over his head, cold water. Then he tried to get up for Isha and he fainted inside of his house. Then they were waiting, and then finally he did not want to delay Salah, because the Prophet ﷺ said, the most beloved deed to me is to pray Salah at its earliest hour. So he said, tell Abu Bakr anhu to lead Salah. So he went up, but we know that Umar ibn Khattab went first, and the Prophet told him to come back, and Abu Bakr. But when he was going up, the Sahaba, like every single Salah, they would wait for the Prophet, they would look left, because the Prophet's house was towards the left. And he would walk out. Now this day at Isha, as they're looking left, the Prophet doesn't walk out. Sallallahu. So imagine their feelings. You know what's interesting? In one community, we can literally only handle one loss of a loved one at a time. What that means is, the entire community, doesn't matter how big the community is, we can come and comfort one person who lost his father or son or brother. But imagine a masjid where every single person in that masjid just buried their most beloved person. Like, who's gonna comfort who? And that was the situation in the masjid of the Prophet ﷺ. Because collectively, every single person just buried their most beloved person. That's why there was just pinned up silence. Who can comfort who? لا ندري من نعزي. Like they had no idea who can, like how are we going to comfort anybody? They would go to the elderly in the community, sit with them. So the Prophet ﷺ never came out for Isha, but then he heard the commotion. So then he finally made his way out while he was being helped, and he sat on the minbar. And you know, I'm not going to talk about his last talk, but one of the things he said, and Abu Bakr was sitting right in front of him over here. One of the things he said, that Allah has given the choice to His servant between staying with his ummah or coming back to him in Rafiqul A'la. And the servant has chosen the companionship of Allah. He said this. I'm skipping the Arabic because I don't have time. We haven't even started the third verse yet. So Abu Bakr understood, nobody else understood what he said. Abu Bakr says, cries, and he says, Ya Rasulullah, choose us. Fidaka bi abi wa ummi ya Rasulullah. We will sacrifice our parents, our mothers, our fathers, everything we have. Choose us. And the Prophet had a lot of love for his ummah. But the choice was between going back to Allah or staying with his ummah. That was the choice. It was a tough choice. Balil Rafiq al-A'la. Balil Rafiq al-A'la. I'm going to go there. That's where I want to be. Right there. I want to be next to Allah. It's the way you look at things. And of course, I'm not going to say the whole story, but he passed away Monday morning after Fajr Salah. When Asya alayhi salam was being dragged by the troops of Fir'aun from the same palace she built with her own hands. Literally, you know a woman decorates her house? So imagine, like, this is for women. Like, they decorate their own house. You know what's, I'll just say one more thing about this. You know, in Jannah, there will be something, in the whole Quran, there's something attractive in Jannah for different people. Okay? So we know what's in there for the men. We always talk about those verses. Alright? You know, when I read this verse, وَأَكْوَابٌ مَوْضُوعًا, it really stung me. Allah says in Jannah, there will be cups meticulously placed. Utensils in the right place. Habibi, like, imagine you tell a youngster in high school, you know what's in Jannah? In Jannah there's going to be cups in the right place. The guy's going to be like, so what? But if you tell a woman that, if you tell my mom that, I mean, like, the keys will be in the right place. The cup will be in the right place, the tablespoon, the teaspoon, the glass, the plate, everything will be in the right place. My mom's like, I want to get there. Because I'm sick and tired of putting things back in the place. Right? That's what a mother will say. I asked Sheikh Hamza this question. I said, Sheikh Hamza Yusuf, I said, Sheikh, can I guess which verse of Jannah attracts you to Jannah? Because I know how he is. He said, which verse is it? لا تسمع فيها لاغية. لا تسمع فيها لاغية means you're not going to ever hear someone speaking with bad grammar. Like, how does that make any sense? Like, how does that attract a youngster whose entire language is messed up? Literally, his Arabic, his Urdu, his English, completely messed up. Yo, bro, we got that dub tonight? Like, what are you talking about? What are you saying? You know, like, the whole language is messed up. لا تسمع فيها لاغية. You will not ever hear someone speaking out of place. It will be precise, right? And Shaykh Hamza is like, absolutely. Because he's one of those guys. And you know why I understood this? Is because, you know this, there's some people who are very, very, very good qadis. Like we had a qadi, his name is Qadi Bashir Sahib from Medina Munawwara. He's 90 years old, he's been teaching in Medina Munawwara for 60 years. Okay? Man, this man, I don't know what he did wrong, he ends up in Michigan. Alright. He could not tolerate listening to anyone read Quran. Literally, he said, Chalo Quran paro, he's like, this is Sabah Asha Qari, blah, blah, blah. He starts, iski to Fatiha say nahi hai. Okay? Iski to Fatiha sahi nahi hai. Next person, you know what he told me about one of the teachers in MI who has actually good qira'ah? You know what he told me? He's a savage. He's like, Abdul Rahman, you know this guy, just send him home and give him a retirement package. He can't teach. Because imagine this person praying behind someone who has bad tajweed, it will always mess with his mind. You get what I'm saying? So for now I understand la tasma'u fiha laghiya. Because the guy, that's a person who's a stickler for these things. In Jannah, he's like, this is a perfect thing. What was I saying before that? I was saying something before that. Huh? Asya, thank you so much. Asya alayhi salam, you got to pay attention. Asya alayhi salam is being dragged from that same palace that she once built. All right? She put everything in its place for no other crime except for the fact that she believed in Allah. Now, Fir'aun decides to make a lesson out of her. Just to summarize the story. So he takes her to the highest hilltop or mountain in that area. Drags her out, takes her to the top, and then puts a plank of wood underneath her body. And then pegs her arms and legs to the plank of wood. That's why in Surah Fajr Allah says, وَفِرْعَوْنَ ذِي الْأَوْتَادِ. Fir'aun, the one of pegs. What that means? وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادَ. Jibal means, and Allah made Jibal, the mountains, as pegs into the ground that secure the earth. So, same thing, that's from the same word. So he pegs her into this plank of wood. And as she's being pegged in this plank of wood, she makes a dua. Look, رَبِّ ابْنِ لِي عِنْدَكَ بَيْتًا فِي الْجَنَّةِ. Oh Allah, build for me near you a house in Jannah. She could have just said, oh Allah, give me Jannah. That would have been sufficient. She could have said, oh Allah, save me from the fire of Jahannam. That would have been sufficient. Oh Allah, and not even like a word that exemplifies a massive mansion. Bayt means house. Oh Allah, build for me near you a place in Jannah, near you. That is an interesting way of looking at things. I'm talking about myopia. Because if you ever gone to Makkah, who's gone for Umrah or Hajj before? Raise your hands. Alright, so you know what I'm talking about? Those who haven't gone, may Allah take you there. Say Ameen. And those who have gone, go over and over again. So you know when you get to the clock tower, and that, you know, you're pissed off, a long trip there, and the agent is giving you the hotel cards, right? So you take, everyone's in the same hotel, and you get these hotel cards. This example, I'll give it another way because there's another way of explaining this example for Desis. I'll tell you that in a second. So you get these cards, and then you go to your hotel room. I took my wife for the first time right now. You know what's the first thing you look at? The first thing you do is draw the curtain. Right? You want to see the view from the room. Some people get the city view. MashaAllah, it's a beautiful city. Some people get partial haram view. They see a minaret, which is beautiful. Some people get the full haram view. And some people get the Kaaba view. What is your expression when you draw the curtain and you get the full Kaaba view? Your expression is that you're just quiet and you're smiling. Just like smiling. This is the same expression Asya alayhi salam had after making this dua. And Fir'aun is saying, انظر إلى هذه المجنونة نعذبها وهي تضحك. Look at this crazy woman. We are punishing her and she's smiling. You know why she's smiling? She's not smiling because she sees Jannah, but she's smiling because of the view from her house in Jannah. And the view from her house in Jannah was Allah. That's why she was smiling. Right? They say in Arabic, Al-jar qabla ad-dar wa rafiq qabla at-tariq. You choose your neighborhood before you choose your house. School district, this, that. I mean, I can tell you, I can give you places in Michigan, 5,000 square feet, house for $100,000. Yeah, I'm not sure you're gonna live one night there. You might have to put like bars outside your house. You choose your neighborhood before you choose the house. You choose your companion of your trip before you choose where you're going. Does that make sense? All right, someone calls you and says, Sheikh, we're going to Maldives. Perfect, let's go. It's on my air miles, even better, let's do it. So you say, where are you going? How much it costs? When are we going? We're going during vacation. Perfect. Then you say, who are we going with? And they say, we're going with this person, that person, that person, and then they name that one guy who bothers me in my community. I'm not gonna say his name. They name that guy who just messed with you. They name your ex, or they named your father-in-law. Astaghfirullah. All right? Then you're like, you know what you say? You know what you say? This is what you say. You say, the one word that they say that means no way. You know what that word is? Let me do istikhara. Listen, if you're doing istikhara, if you're having rishta talks, and there's this pause in the rishta talks, and the pause is about istikhara, move on. Because istikhara is only when you don't want to do it. When it's perfect, like the man is, just got done first year residency, got a car, everything is good. Oh, there's no istikhara there. Right? If he's Maulvi Saab from madrasa, just graduated, or sister doesn't have some education, well, we're doing istikhara. So they say the word, you say, brother, I'm going to do istikhara, and I'll let you know. Which means I'm not doing it. So you say, come back to what I was saying earlier. It is the neighborhood before the house. It's the companion before the destination. 100%. I'm not, who's recording this? Don't post this online. Because we're trying to be, it's okay, keep recording, it's fine, but just send it. So, because I'm going to say something. So this is not something we should record. So I was with an AK a month ago with Khabib. He said, come down. And I was with him. And he said, okay, let's go eat some food. So Khabib was like, let's go eat food. And I was like, cool. Khabib's going to take me out to eat food. We're going to some fancy restaurant. This is going to be amazing. As I'm saying this, there's a sister recording. I can see you. It's okay, go ahead. All right, so it's okay, go ahead. So that's why I'm observed, I don't have myopia. So he said to me that we're gonna go eat. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna go. Khabib taking me out, this guy was a billionaire, his crew, we're gonna go out to eat somewhere. Wallahi, we drive 2 minutes and we pull up in this random strip plaza. I'm like, there must be an amazing steakhouse here. In my head, I was thinking of everything. We walk into Applebee's. That's for the broke white man. Seriously, that's where you go. Right, that's where you go. We should go get some. So you go to Applebee's. I'm like, what, Applebee's? I didn't say nothing. Okay, he sits down and I said, go ahead, you order, because I don't, what am I gonna do at Applebee's? He orders shrimp. I'm not a big seafood guy. He orders shrimp. And then literally I asked him, I said, yo, what's going on here, man? You know what he said to me? This is crazy. He said, listen, brother. The closest amazing halal restaurant is 45 minutes away from here. We were both in separate cars. We came to Applebee's, that means I have 43 more minutes with you. Who cares about the food? It's about the people you're eating with. That matters more. It's about the people you're eating with. That's what matters. Go to the amazing restaurant with your wife you just had a fight with. You're definitely giving a 1-star review that day. Right? But the person you're going with matters. So we were coming back all the way to what the Prophet ﷺ said. Where do you want to be? When he said, what choice do you have? He said, what I want to go to? Jannah. All right, I'm going to say one more thing two more things about this surah. There's the next one of the verse number 3. Allah says, "Huwal awwalu wal." This is all. The first part was just through musabbihat. Everything you just remember what I just said is about musabbihat, sabbaha, and making sure we understand what it actually means to declare Allah's perfection, because we might not see it because we have myopia, spiritual myopia. But if we open our eyes to it, the people before, they've done that before, and they look at things completely different. Because Asila is getting punished here, but she's looking at that. That's making her happy. All right, the next verse, and this is quick. هُوَ الْأَوَّلُ وَالْآخِرُ وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ. Allah says, and He is awwal. What does awwal mean? He's the first. and He is the last. Right? He is Zahir, He's a parent, and He's Batin. Right? Batin means close to you, intimate as well. Like His knowledge is everywhere. And one lesson I want to derive from here, Mufassirin say, what does this actually mean? Huwa al-awwal wal-akhir. This is actually extremely relevant for all of us. That's why I want to mention this. Mufassirin say what it means is Huwa al-awwal, He is first. That means before you make any decision, Allah comes first. Who comes first? Allah, not the school district, not business, not the weather of the city. Who comes first? Allah comes first. Before you make any decision. As a sister growing up, you're making a decision about your career, first think of Allah. Which career path would Allah be happy with? I could serve the deen of Allah more. A youngster who's, going to college and doing what you're doing, of course we can all make money. Making money is a good thing. Please make more money and give it to Miftah. Okay? No problem. But you don't have to make money in a way where you completely forget about Allah. Allah has to be before every decision of yours. Does that make sense? Huwa al-awwal. You're making a decision about your kids. Huwa al-awwal. Huwa al-awwal. We've already went through a whole generation of people who never thought of Allah first, and we've seen where their kids have been now. We've seen it. It's clear as day. Those who thought of Allah first, and then they thought of, okay, dunya, this, that, we've seen the difference in their kids too. So always think of Allah before making any decision. You about to get married? Daisies, this is especially for you all, we're from the same culture. Habibi, first don't think of what is going to be nice for her family, her mother, her father, my family. First think of what would please Allah, what will disobey Allah. What will be a source of obedience? What will be a source of disobedience? Everything comes back to that. So there's no like, I want this to happen. You just say, Allah doesn't want this to happen. Khalas, who can argue with that now? Do you understand what I'm saying? Allah comes first. You know what a very, very tangible thing is for this, when you want to put this into practice? I love this one. I love this one. You know one thing about knowledge is, I said this before. An average person sitting here right now could be thinking of a business idea that nobody ever thought of before. It's possible. It literally is possible. You sitting right there, what's your name? Huh? Amir. I'm not saying you're an average Joe, but I'm just saying Amir could be sitting here right now and he could think of an amazing business idea that nobody has thought of before. And there's a lot of pessimistic people. Oh, ye kaise hoga? If there's such a good idea that someone else should have thought about it. You know those people? Like that. Those people need to just chill, okay? It's possible you can think of that. But let me tell you something that's interesting. It is almost impossible to think of a deen idea that has never done before. Something like a tafsir or a book. I remember once I was thinking of I want to compile all the different things that have been written on the headstones of people. Like Iqbal rahmatullahi, what poem was written on his, he has all these poems, which one did he choose for his headstone? Like different people like that, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, this book has definitely not been written before. Within an hour we found a book. All right? So this tafsir right here, it's always going to be this. You don't have to bring anything from your pocket. That's only for people who don't study. You know what Huwa al-awwal wal-akhir means? It also means Allah is the first thing you should start your day with. The thought of Allah. The awareness of Allah should be the first thing your day starts with. Let me give you an example of that. Our day should not start with picking up our phone first. This is not Huwa al-awwal. This is for all of you sitting here. And please don't spare me the idea that your alarm clock's in your phone. Spare. The Prophet ﷺ, if you just look at the way he woke up, you can speak about it for 3 hours. Just the moment he opened his eyes and got off of his bed, and the du'as he made to do wudu, then he came back, the du'as he made, like basically, ek puri dunya isme gum hai. Literally, from the moment he opened his eyes till he got to do wudu, came back, then went to the masjid and then sat afterwards. We categorize this entire thing as morning du'as, but they're different. There's some that he made on his bed, some that he made as he was walking, some that he made as he was walking to the masjid, and some that he made after Fajr. Like, look at this, like the moment he would get out of his house at the Tahajjud time, literally, like he would look up at the skies. Salma said, I have never seen my Habib Sallallahu ever in my life wake up and leave my house, that he would come out of the house and look up at the skies and he would say, Allahumma inni a'udhu bika min an adilla aw udalla aw azilla aw uzalla aw adlima alayya aw yudlam aw ajhala aw yujla alayya. He said, oh Allah, I seek refuge that I become misguided. What? What are you, Ya Rasulullah, what? And we are content with our religion. Or like, I seek refuge that I become misguided, or I misguide somebody else. I seek refuge that I slip, or someone makes me slip. I seek refuge that I may oppress somebody, or someone may oppress me. I seek refuge that I may become ignorant upon somebody else, or they become ignorant upon me every morning. I'll say one more thing about this, and I think we'll conclude with this. The Prophet, he said, Man asbaha. What do you say? Man asbaha. The one who wakes up in the morning, which means the moment your eyes open. Huwa al-awwal. The Prophet said, the one who wakes up, what dunya akbaru hammihi. And the first thing they think of, or predominantly the first thought of theirs, is something of dunya. Bro, you are not that important. Okay? If no one told you that before, I'm telling you that right now. You are not important. Even though in this era, we have this huge culture of participation awards. You know what I mean by that? I'll tell you what I mean by that. When we were young, there was only first place, we would play ice hockey, first place gets a trophy, some medals, second place gets some medals. Everybody else, all you suckers go home with nothing. Alright? Wallahi, I take my sons for ice hockey, and I'm sitting here looking at the camera in the first saf of the masjid, and I'm telling you, my sons suck. Mazi is terrible. Maz, my son, Maz, he's terrible. I mean, Desi's can't play hockey. There's no way. Not as committed as other people. Yusuf is okay. And Mazi doesn't like when I say this. I said he's the worst. One time I gave a talk and I said that he's the worst player on his team. My son came to me and checked me. And he said, I'm the second worst player. I said, you know what, you're right. You're the second worst player. That's true. There's one person who's worse than you. All right, I tell you something. You look at his cabinet, he got a bunch of trophies. Oh, most improved skater. Most improved this, most improved that. Brother, just tell him he sucks. Maybe he'll work harder. Okay, no, maybe the parents will get offended. Maybe you're gonna hurt his feelings. I'm sorry for being like that, but I'm telling you right now why I'm saying that for. Why am I saying that for? Because I'm trying to tell us, even me, doesn't matter. People, like we have a madrasa, boarding students that, Habibi, you're not that important. The day you die, Allah will take the work from somebody else. You think your family runs because of you? No, it doesn't. Look at the Prophets passing away and the Ummah after him. The deen carried on. Sahaba passed away, deen carried on. Deen is more precious. And Allah takes the work. No, but I have to do this, I gotta check this. So check this out. You wake up in the morning, the Prophet said, "Wa dunya akbaru hammi." First thing you check is your phone. And some of you youngsters, I'm not sure if you've ever done this before, but I've done this all my life. I used to sell things on Facebook or, eBay or different things. And you're looking at bids. You know, you put your car on sale and you're looking at bids. You go, for all the bids up to here now, right? And that's the first thing. I'm saying this because I'm one of you. I'm not like, that's why the Prophets were one of the people. I'm one of you. We suffer from the same problems. I would open my phone, look at eBay, look at the bids, first thing in the morning. The Prophet is saying, "What dunya akbaru hammihi." The person who literally, in this example, picks up his phone first, Allah will punish him with three things. جَعَلَ اللَّهُ الْفَقْرَ بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ. Allah will always make this person poor, needy, depressed. Thoughts will be so scattered. You will see it on this person's face because the Prophet said, بَيْنَ عَيْنَيْهِ. It will be visible on the expression of this person. You know, you can see it. Yeah, kya ho gaya? Why are you so down for it? You will see it. It's because of the way you started your day. Start your day out properly. Don't do that. It's not worth it. You will see that in the expression of people's faces. Okay, that's the first thing. The second thing is, and now, let me tell you about expression of face. There are people who make effort on themselves. Wallah, you look at them, you feel better. And there are certain people who have gone so far from Allah, you look at them, you get more depressed. Right? You know, that's how it works. You know, when the tabi'een were asked, how come you guys are so great? You know what they used to reply with? The tabi'een are people who saw the Sahaba. I'm going to say this one line, it's such a profound line. This is tabi'een, yeah, well, how come you guys are so amazing? You know what they said? So powerful statement. نظرنا إلى تلك الوجوه عشية فأشرقت الأرواح من حسن ما ترى. They said, we saw those faces for one moment. हमने वो चेहरे देखे हैं. And because of that, you see what you see today. Because of that. Otherwise, there's a whole chapter written about people who accepted Islam the moment they saw the Prophet's face. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. That's all they had to see, the Prophet's face. There's an incident of a blind man accepting Islam by touching the Prophet's face. This face is not the face of a liar. Okay? This is not something you can wear like, what's that thing called, Fair and Lovely and like all these different things. Isse kuch nahi hota. Okay? There's nothing happens because of that. You know, there was Hassan Basri rahmahullah was asked, Ma balul mutahajjideen min ahsan al-nasi wujuha. Why is it that the people who pray tahajjud are the most beautiful people? They have such brilliant faces. You just want to keep looking at them. They're so handsome. And Hassan Basri, he said, لِأَنَّهُمْ خَلَوْا بِالرَّحْمَنِ فَأَلْبَسَهُمْ نُورًا مِّن نُورِهِ. Because they, in the darkness of the night, isolated themselves with Allah, so Allah gave them nur from His nur. This is divine. You can't make this up. You can't go to a barber and make yourself look better. It doesn't work that way. Khair. The first punishment was what? Poverty. It's going to be expressed on your face. The second punishment is وَشَتَّتْ عَلَيْهِ شَمْلَهُ. I wish I have this. This is for you to understand. I hope the sisters can see. وَشَتَّتْ عَلَيْهِ شَمْلَهُ means this. You have a piece of paper and you throw it on the floor. And you tell someone to pick it up, it'll take them a second. You have a piece of paper, you put it through a shredder. The same piece of paper, you put it through a shredder. And then you throw that shredded particles all over the floor. And then you tell them, pick it up. The second person is going to take way longer than the first person. Correct? And he'll just tuk, 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 tuk. And it's not like he's picking up more than one page. It's still a page. It's still just one paper. But it's all these particles. Man, the Prophet was so profound. He said that Allah will scatter your affairs. Meaning things that should have just taken one day will take a month. No barakah in time. Things that were supposed to take a month will take a year. Things that were supposed to take 1 year will end up taking 5 years because of the way you woke up in the morning. شَتَّتْ عَلَيْهِ شَمْلَهُ. The third punishment, I gotta conclude. The third punishment. وَلَا يَأْتِهِ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا إِلَّا مَا كُتِبَ لَهُ. And he says, this person should not be fooled that they're actually working harder so they might get more money. No, that doesn't work that way. They're actually not getting more done. They're only gonna get that which Allah already ordained for them. Okay, the opposite. This is the glad tidings. Man asbaha wal akhiratu akbaru hammi. A person who wakes up in the morning and says, forget my phone. Alhamdulillah alladhi ahyana ba'da ma amatana wa ilayhi nushur. Gets up, says the name of Allah, does wudu, prays salah, thinks of Allah, thinks of his next day first, and then afterwards picks up his phone. So he's thinking of these things. The Prophet said, Sallallahu Ja'ala Allah al-ghina fi qalbihi. Allah will always make him content. Contentment, happiness, joy will be embedded in this person's heart. And if you don't know what contentment means, that means because you've never actually seen a content person. Contentment is not something we can speak about. You have to see people like that, then you realize this is what qana'ah means. This person is brimming happiness, joy, chilling, even though this person has a small 1-bedroom apartment, no car, nothing. But man, this man, when you see him, you're always happy. That's qana'ah. Versus you go to people's homes, I'm not trying to say anything, for my community, you go to people's homes, like they just built this massive house. आप उनके घर में जाते हैं, नहूसत सी महसूस होती है. Literally you feel loneliness. You feel emptiness. And they're showing you walls and bathrooms and not people. Look at this bathroom, look at the tiles over here, look at this what I did here. हम bathroom नहीं देखना है, लोगों को देखना है. We're not here to see, इंसान देखा है यार. We can sit together and talk, right? So, when you wake up in the morning the right way, huwa al-awwal, Allah is first, what happens? I'm sorry if that comment offended anyone. If I did offend somebody, please forgive me. You forgive me? You forgive me? I'm from the same community, guys. I'm telling you. Like I'm just trying to tell you that you gotta put things in the right place. It's good to have that. My mom loves granite countertops, the matching marble floor and this and that. She loves it. It's good, mashallah, good. But put things in the right place. Right? So he says the person, Allah will give him, the reward will be contentment in their heart. وَجَمَعَ لَهُ شَمْلَهُ. The opposite will happen. Things that are scattered, Allah will make them together. وَأَتَتْهُ الدُّنْيَا وَهِيَ رَاغِمَةٌ. Even though this person doesn't want dunya, Allah will give them dunya. I don't want it. Allah said, no, you're taking it. The Majority said, no, you're taking it. I want you to get it. Because if dunya comes to you, good things are going to happen in the world. If you get money, good things are going to happen. Madrasas will be made. Madrasas will be taken care of. Masjids will be. We want you to, Allah will give it to you. So huwa al-awwal wal-akhir. And before you sleep at night, again, tangible thing. Don't let the last thing you do at night is be on your phone. Don't do that. It's a horrible way of sleeping. The last thing you should do at night, one person came to a sheikh, and I'll conclude with this. And he said, please tell me a way I can see the Prophet in my dream. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Who wouldn't want to see him in his dream? And we know if someone sees the Prophet in his dream, he's seen the Prophet. And so the person said, okay, no problem. He's a sheikh. He said, you know what you do? Eat very bitter food, salty food, put extra salt in your food for the next 7 days and don't drink any water. So okay, like man, this is some crazy wazifa. Let me finish the story. You know, I have to do snippets like, oh, now people are doing it online. Let me finish it, okay? So one day he ate bitter food, extra salt. Second day, third day, just salty food. And he's just dying for water. But he said he can't drink water. So after the 5th day, he came back to the sheikh. He said, Sheikh, like I've been doing this for 5 days, but I didn't see the Prophet in my dream. He said, what did you see in your dream? He said, all I saw was water. What did he say? All I saw was? Why? Because you've been thinking about water all day. You were sleeping thinking about water. Habibi, you want to see the Prophet in your dream and you're thinking about Houston Astros? You want to see the Prophet in your dream, you're thinking about some random thing? It's not possible. It's not possible. Okay? That's not how it works. Anas bin Malik used to see the Prophet in his dream every other night. One night he saw the Prophet in his dream, Ya Rasulullah, like literally I'm just paraphrasing it, maine kaun sa gunah kiya hai that you come every other night? Come every night. So what did I do wrong that I see you every other night? After that day, every time he slept, he would see the Prophet in his dream. You know why? You know why? Because it says about Anas bin Malik, Subhanallah, ما ذكر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم عنده إلا ابتترت عيناه. Never in Anas bin Malik's life would the Prophet's name be mentioned except for just by his name, he would start crying. Just by mentioning his name, he would start crying. Now, of course, the Prophet will come in his dreams. Does that make sense? Huwa al-akhir. Sleep right, wake up right. Wake up with Allah first on your mind, and sleep with Allah as the last thing on your mind. Allah's deen, Allah's happiness, Allah's joy, Allah's Jannah, things about deen. Things about the Prophet ﷺ. Sleep with that. And then trust me, insomnia goes away like that. This is, people have been doing a lot of sleep study work. This is a great way of doing it. Brothers and sisters, I have successfully finished 3 verses. Okay, which was a huge, actually accomplishment for me. And we've been doing this for 1 hour. So may Allah bless all of you for sitting with so much patience and so much zeal and enthusiasm. You know, you've been so, such a marvelous gathering, an audience over here. And I can't promise you that I will finish Surah Hadeed with you guys, but I will tell you, please, on your own time, finish Surah Hadeed. Okay, if you have a workshop that someone's coming with Surah Hadeed, go ahead and learn it. It was just a teaser, right? That's the whole point over here. It's just, imagine, this is the first 3 verses. Imagine the power of the entire surah. Wallahi al-Azim, I'm guaranteeing you this. If I was to do 1 verse in this surah and explain to you just 1 year of the Prophet's life, I'm saying wallahi, if I was to explain to you 9th year of the Prophet's life, 9th Hijri, and 18 months after that, not his entire life, that because in this surah there's a verse that I usually explain that story. Not his entire life. You would actually cry for the Prophet ﷺ from your heart, and you would say, man, the Prophet went through so much. Like how you cry for orphans when you hear about them in Syria and Kashmir and different places, you literally would be like, you wouldn't think of the Prophet in the same way again. You would think of him differently. This man, like he was 61, 62 years old at this time. Like usually you're like, okay, now you get that send off, right? In a beautiful 9th year, up and down, birth of a, loss of a child, birth of a child, loss of this, like a roller coaster, right? So we haven't done that. And actually I was planning to do that, but 1 hour went by with the first 3 verses. So, I'm not gonna promise you falsely that I'm gonna come back and do that, finish the surah off. But inshallah, if I get an opportunity, please do come back, right? And we'll finish off a few more verses of Surah Hadeed. May Allah bless all of you for sitting here. May Allah bless this masjid. May Allah accept this gathering. May Allah make us among those who love Quran and take lessons from Quran. I usually have the audience review some of the things I say during my talk. So if you don't mind, can you guys take 2-3 minutes and sit with a person next to you and just go over some of the things that are mentioned. Sisters do the same thing, brothers do the same thing. And there should be nobody who's quiet in the entire masjid. Bismillah, do it. Bismillah. Anything you remember, any small anecdotes, you can, if there's a kid next to you, you're an adult, sit with that person. Bismillah, share it with somebody next to you. All right? Look, mashallah, we hear so many beautiful things, but we've become a generation of passive listeners. You have to become an active listener. Listen to things. And what's interesting is I'm going to give you an example of, this is a great saint of our time. His name was Sheikh Yusuf Kandalwi Rahmatullahi. He was speaking at Nizamuddin in India. And so he told, once one person came and in front of everybody, he said to him, they eat pan. You know pan? That disgusting thing. One time I went to Bangladesh, and I was in Jamaat in Bangladesh, and they told me, and I was struggling there, so they told me that, you know what, we're going to send you to the city called Khulna, and you're going to go on a ferry. I was like, oh God, I can't wait, because I was struggling. Is anyone from Bangladesh over here? Okay, so he knows. Khulna. Khulna is like, I think west of Dhaka. And I was like, yeah man, this is going to be amazing. So Dr. Saab, we get on this ferry. I was like, okay, I'm going to get out and see the water. Wallahi, you have to get out with an umbrella because everyone's spitting pan everywhere. From the upper deck, lower deck, like, and I'm like, whoa, I had to stay in the bus. Like I couldn't get out. Because if you got out, you need an umbrella. Like, because the pan was going to hit you. Like, you were not going to be spared of this pan. That was a ferry, by the way. So anyways, don't go there. I was thinking of Mackinac Island ferry. Like, I was like thinking of those things. So Maulana Yusuf said to this, it was just as a test. He said to the guy who came up, he's like, get me this pan. And pan is like coffee. I mean, pan is actually more detailed than coffee. You know what pan is? Okay. Huh?
like ecstasy.
No. Inshallah, that's what I was saying earlier. You're never going to hear the wrong word in Jannah. It's going to be the perfect word choice, not just grammar. No. What I was saying was, pan is like, it's like, it's like someone's coffee. If sometimes you go to Starbucks, they have this crazy order. Like, I want this, like I want a blonde brew, a misto, right? You ever heard of that before? It's not a blonde, it's actually a blonde brew, right? So you say, I want a blonde brew, a misto, with this, that, about, okay? A blonde is a brew, it's a brew of a coffee, and a misto is like a desi chai, like you put milk in first, that type of thing, right? So you say that. Khair, nonetheless, pan is like that. There's like detailed instructions, and like 7 different things. I want this, that, and then he went. And the guy went and came back with the exact pan that instructions were given. Brought the pan back. Then Hazrat Ji said to everybody, all right, what kind of pan do I want? Do you understand what I said? He looked at everybody in the audience now. What kind of pan did I ask for? Everyone's like, this. Nobody knew. Nobody knew. So you know what he said? He said, how come he remembered? And you didn't remember? Because this person was remembering because he had to tell someone else. You know what I'm saying? That's why he had to tell someone else. He had to give the instruction to somebody else. I see this in prison all the time. Like, you can't write things when you visit your loved ones, so they'll tell you a number or something. Boom, they memorize it in a second. Because they have to remember it and tell someone else. Versus you can't even memorize your own home phone number right now. But they have to tell someone else something. So that's why their memory is sharp for that thing. He said, this person heard what I said, and the intention that he had of receiving it was he has to give that instruction to someone else the way he heard it. And you were just sitting there passively listening. And that's why you don't remember it. And Imam Shafi'i says, like, the journey of action, like amal, is actually the first step towards action is literally al-istima', is actually to listen attentively. Then thumma al-hifz, then retaining it. Then it's amal. Thumma al-amal. Right? First you listen attentively. So I want all of you to start practicing this. It's very, very helpful. Always do this. Whenever you hear something, listen to it properly. And wallahi, I'll tell you something, even the khatib with the worst accent, if you listen attentively, will say something that will be powerful. Just listen attentively. Don't walk in and say, oh, it's not that person. Listen properly. And you will take something back from it. And then inshallah you can share it with somebody else. So that's one of the things we do, is just talk about it with somebody next to you so you can remember something. Because of all the things we mentioned, if you remember a few things, inshallah it's sufficient. So remember the example of the pan. Remember that example? Keep that example in your mind. All right, anybody have any questions for me? We have a couple of minutes. They told me that I'm paid till 10:30. Astaghfirullah. I'm just here. You know the guy, what was the guy? Marshawn Lynch. So anyways, anybody have any questions for me? You guys are all mashallah so studious. Any questions?
Why is it called Hadeed?
Subhanallah. It's because there is a verse in the surah that Allah says, Anzal al-Hadeed, that I have revealed Hadeed, iron, okay? And iron has so many benefits, right? And one thing about that is, we were speaking to Mu'attar Jamil Sahib yesterday. We were he spoke to me, and I was telling him that tomorrow I'm going to be doing, they're all there, and I was saying tomorrow I'm going to be doing a small session on Surah Hadeed. And he said, well, say this, say this, say this. And then he said, and pretend like you said it, everyone's going to love you. don't attribute it towards me. So one of the things he said that, look, Allah says, Anzalna al-Hadeed. And the word Anzala is only for something from out of this world. Anzalna al-Quran. Right? Anzalna al-Malaika. Like, they're not from this universe. So from this word choice of Allah, we can conclude that Hadeed is not from this earth. It was revealed from out of space, somewhere else. Not trying to become like this alien expert here, but it was not from here. And that's why, and there's a lot of discussion on Hadeed. Inshallah, maybe one day when we come back we can speak about it. But one of the things we can take from it is this, that a human being is a combination of Hadeed and silk. A human being is a combination of the firmness of iron and the smoothness of silk. What does that mean? Meaning, when you speak to people, al-mu'min hayyin layyin kal-jamal al-anif. A human being is just easygoing, halka pulka, soft as silk. He's not a burden upon anyone around him. Al-mu'minu kan-nakhla. A believer is like a honeybee. The honeybee, when it takes from the flower, it never sits on the flower and breaks it. It just hovers over it. In akalat tiban wa in wada'at tiban. When it sits, it hovers. It kisi par boj nahi bante. You know that Urdu word? Like that's silk. That's on one side we're like that. But on the other side, we're firm like iron means we're firm on the fundamentals of deen. Don't be deceived by my softness that I will compromise on my deen. Mafahamat na sikha jabr narawan se mujhe. मैं सर बकफ हूँ लड़ा दे किसी बला से मुझे. Right? A poet says that don't expect me through my softness that I'm going to compromise on some fundamentals of my deen. You don't know that I have already put my head in my lap and I'm ready to give my life for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then later on he says one of the craziest lines I've ever heard about Karbala. He says about Hussein, he says that मैं सर बसजदा हूँ ए शिमर, मैं सर बसजदा हूँ ए शिमर, मुझको कत्ल भी कर, रिहाई दे भी अब इस अहद करबला से मुझे. He says, Hussein is saying to Shimr, who asked him to compromise, he's saying, मैं सर बसजदा हूँ ए शिमर, oh Shimr, I'm in sajda, मुझको कत्ल भी कर, go ahead and kill me, रिहाई भी दे अब इस अहद करबला से मुझे. Finally, relieve me of this world so I can finally see my grandfather, Rasulullah. Right? So on one hand we are as soft as silk, on the other hand we are as firm as iron. That's one meaning of it. And the other meaning of it is don't be bougie. You know what the bougie word means? Huh? Do you know what it means? Bro, what kind of language you guys have here? Don't be this snowflake generation. You know what that means? Come on, man, I'm speaking English. Is that Detroit lingo? You know what snowflake gen means? Soft. You get offended. You know, if there's no AC, you're not going. If the blanket's not like this, you're not going. If the pillow's like this, you're not going. Because that is not the characteristic of a believer. Believer, badanan ala al-bala'i sabira. You can, your body and your disposition, you're like tough as nails. You can actually tolerate anything. Because that's what a believer needs to do. So you're not just like, and we know that as generations move on in this country, you become softer. You know how they say in basketball, they're so soft now? You heard that before? They're so soft. What does that mean? Like I was saying the other day to my Ishaq bhai, like, you know, when we were young, our parents, like, you know, we never went to hotels. We would go to Toronto, we would like sleep in someone's basement there. Like someone's apartment. And like 50 people, they're like, oh, just struggling there. Then we started staying at hotels in our generation. Okay, my son, I was booking a hotel for my son and my family. They were going to someone's wedding in Chicago and I was going to San Diego. So they were going with the brothers. So I was booking the hotel. And my son, who is 7 years old or 8 years old, he said to me, Abuji, make sure you book a hotel that has a diving pool at the swimming pool. Diving board. Not just a swimming pool. Has to have a diving board. I said, you know what? I booked the hotel. I said, you see that chair next to the swimming pool? That's a diving board. You can jump off of that, right? Like, subhanAllah, where have we gone? إِيَّاكَ وَالتَّنَعُمْ. The Prophet ﷺ said, be aware of excessive luxury. Be careful, right? So on that, sorry, Dr. Babar, so you asked me that question, and that's why the surah has that connotation, all right? Any other questions? Because we will conclude. I think it's already so late. May Allah bless all you guys. SubhanAllah bihamdi. SubhanAllah la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati amma yasifun. Wa salamun ala al-mursalin. Walhamdulillahi bil alamin. Bi rahmatika ya arhamar rahimin.